나한테 가야 될 거 아니야? The villain in this movie is war itself. You know, you don't have like
It's ideology.
Yeah, war. Yeah, it's war and ideology. You're watching Movie Talk. Ganchu! I'm Jason.
And I'm Pierce. Welcome to our show.
What film are we talking about today?
I think anyone who is into history, particularly war, you know, might get a kick out of this one. This is obviously we're going to be talking about a Korean war film.
This is the biggest hit, and certainly the most iconic Korean war film. Of course, we're talking about Kang Jae-gu's TaeGukGi. It follows the events in the Korean War with North Korea invading the South on June 25th, 1950. Two brothers played by Jang Dong-gun and Won, and they get conscripted into the war. So the younger brother is quite unwell, he has a heart problem, and so the older brother is trying to find a way to get him home. So we see the relationship between the two brothers get increasingly fraught as the war goes on.
대학도 싫고 형도 싫고 다 싫어. 더 이상 내게 이래라 저래라 간섭 마.
내가 뭐 때문에 죽기 살기로 뛰어다녔는데 날 풀게 되지만 내가 그렇게 안 했어.
Why watch?
What's interesting about TaeGukGi, it was definitely quite well received by foreign audiences as well as local audiences. And it's a very accessible early Korean blockbuster. So it is an early blockbuster. It's very big, it's bombastic, it's got a big budget, very impressive, large-scale battle sequences.
Yeah, it's important you mention this idea of the blockbuster. We all know what the blockbuster is. It's these big, expensive films. I think the Korean filmmakers have been very successful in kind of following this format, and you see over the last 20 years or so, there have been so many of these successful kind of 10 million ticket films that have kind of played with this formula. I mean, Bong Joon-ho's The Host is a great example of that.
Sure, yeah, Bong Joon-ho's The Host, even things like Haeundae, you know, the big tsunami film, it's about setting up these family dynamics and then throwing them into this kind of, you know, large-scale disaster film, a war film, or a fantastical monster movie, whatever it is. It's a very compelling,
along with the gods,
dynamic formula.
Yeah, or even Choi Dong-hoon's The Thieves, you know.
Key scene number 1.
You have this scene where the two brothers are being drafted, they're being conscripted. So the younger brother, he has no choice but to get onto this train. And then we have the older brother, he's looking for medicine. He comes back, finds that his younger brother is no longer there, but on this train. So he's desperate to get him off, but unfortunately, he finds himself conscripted as well. So it's a really quite interesting scene. It's the first kind of scene full of tension in the film.
And it's a real gut punch because the family, because you have the older brother's fiance and the brother's mother outside and their sister, right? They've just lost one son to the war essentially, and now the second one's kind of gone after him, so now they're both gone. This family is particularly hard hit by the Korean War.
아니 둘이 한꺼번에 여기서 뭐 하나? 아니 한 집에서 한 명만 착출해야 되는 거 아니야? 아 둘 다 뒤지면은 재산은 누가 지내주나? 나라에서 지내주나? 이런.
Key scene number 2.
One more key scene we want to talk about, a very powerful scene in the film. We have Young-shin, who is the older brother's fiance. She has been kind of taken in by South Korean soldiers and she's been labeled a communist sympathizer, essentially. Because early in the film, she had kind of signed up for some rallies to get like free bags of rice and things, although she doesn't share in that ideology whatsoever. And so this is a pretty brutal scene. I don't want to say exactly what happens, but it's a very shocking, powerful scene.
Yeah, so we see kind of atrocities happen on kind of both sides here, and I think that's important because you can differentiate this film from, you know, anti-communist films in the 1960s, 1970s, you know, where North Korea is villainized and you've got South Korean heroes. Here you see things quite differently.
All this ideology, you have this capitalist ideology, this communist ideology, and they're both kind of vilified. And really the heart of the film is the family emotion in there.
And I think the villain in this movie is war itself. You know, you don't have like
it's ideology.
Yeah, war. Yeah, it's war and ideology. You don't have like a North Korean commander or anything like that, where who's the antagonist in the film. It's war. It's ideology, and it destroys his family.
Trivia.
So the film was shot by Hong Kyung-pyo.
Right.
He's a very famous cinematographer.
Quite famous.
Quite famous. I mean, he only shot Parasite. I mean, come on!
What's that?
So yeah, he's one of the most distinguished cinematographers in Korea.
He did Save the Green Planet, one of my favorites, one of yours as well. I think with TaeGukGi shows off some of his strengths as well, because I think compared to other cinematographers, his skill is location photography and natural lighting. So of course, as a battle film, there's a lot of that.
And it's interesting to watch how his skill has evolved over the years as well, looking at Save the Green Planet and TaeGukGi, kind of his earlier films, and then his later ones, you know, Parasite, The Wailing, and Burning, and Mother as well. I mean, nowadays, if you see his name attached to a film, it generates...
It's a selling point.
It's a selling point.
Pop quiz. What gift does Jin-tae give Jin-seok before the war?
Shoes.
Pen.
Doesn't he give him shoes as well, though? Yeah.
What did Koreans call popsicles in the 1950s?
Ice something, right? Ice checky, I don't know, something.
What medal is Jin-tae trying to receive?
I don't
Medal
know.
of Honor. I
Medal
think.
of Valor. I don't know.
See, how are we supposed
yeah,
to get that? I mean, come on.
3, 2, 1, jump!
Much like war itself, KaNja-gyu's Brotherhood of War is messy, brutal, harrowing, and heart-wrenching.
One of the original modern Korean blockbusters, TaeGukGi is a harrowing story of war anchored by the bond between two brothers. Oh, actually, I had time left.
Thanks for watching.
Yes, thanks for joining us. If you are interested in this discussion and you want to watch TaeGukGi, just check out a link in the description below. TaeGukGi,
Brotherhood of War.
Ganju!
Ganju!